Hi, this is Regina. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you how to stitch out an applique pumpkin that I've created. It has a background fill on it, and let's get started. Let me turn this around. Alright, so when it comes up like that. I like to have it rotated around the other way. So I'm going to go into Edit, Rotate, go 90 and 90 because of the way the hoop is. So it has the background fill, and then the whole pumpkin itself is appliqued. So let me get started. I have hooped an 8x8 piece of background fabric. And the first color, like I said, is going to be the background fill, the background decoration, whatever you want to call it. And why is this not giving me a start? Oh, hello. There we go. That's why. Alright, so I'll let this stitch for a little bit, and then I'll stop the camera so you don't have to watch all this. It makes for a very long, boring video. And at least this way you can see what that background fill is going to look like. Now, again, I'm using my sticky hoop, so I have that sticky paper on the back of the hoop. It's a Durkee Easy Frame, is what it's called. And I've really been using it a lot. And I really like the way that it holds the fabric, just for stitching out a simple block. So I think you can see what that background fill is going to look like. Let me get in just a little bit closer. Alright, so I'll stop the camera and be back when that part's finished. So if you wanted to make this a quilt-as-you-go type block, you would have put the batting underneath your fabric and stitched it that way. I didn't put batting underneath this because I'm just stitching out, doing a test stitch. And anyhow, that's what you would do if you were going to make a quilt-as-you-go type block. And if you just wanted to give it a little poof because you were going to make a mug rug or something, you would put your batting up underneath this, up underneath your fabric to help with that mug rug too. So one thing you might want to do is print out a template of this design and measure each element to see how much fabric you're going to need for it. I'm winging it, using a lot of scraps, and I just lay the scraps on there until I find a piece that fits. I just want to get it covered and get it tacked down so that I can trim it whenever I'm doing an applique. I know a lot of people give you exact measurements, but that's if you're cutting, I guess, cutting new fabric or something. I don't know. I just want to use up my scraps that I put saving. So you can see what it's looking like. Let's see if I can get this down a little bit closer. It's just a crosshatch, I guess you can call it. Be back. So one thing about these background fills or decorative fills, whatever you want to call it, the way that the program or even the machine does it, it has to have a way to finish the design. So when it finishes stitching part of the design, it actually goes around and stitches a straight line all the way around. I can't take that line out. Sometimes it can be aggravating because that's just another stitch on top of a stitch, you know. But it is trying to finish the diamond shape. And I'll be back so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. It goes back and forth to finish that diamond or half diamond shape all the way around. And that is nothing that I can take out. but it can be annoying in some cases, but it can be good in other cases. If I was going to take this and make a mug rug out of it after I tear the sticky tearaway stabilizer away, I would put my back fabric on, put my batting on top of that, just stitch. Whenever I cut this, I would cut it off at about 3/8 of an inch, and then stitch a 1/4 of an inch seam all the way around. Well, not all the way around. You want to leave an opening so that you can turn it inside out. That's making a mug rug. And this gives kind of a guideline, if you will, for you to trim that fabric, so that's good. But like I said, you would put your backing fabric down, you put your batting down, and you sew a 1/4 of an inch away, and you turn that inside out, and then you can take that piece that didn't get stitched and tuck it in, and then, you know, press the seam together, and then stitch, you know, 1/8 of an inch all the way around to get everything closed up. Okay, so that's the cross hatches finished. So one thing about applique, I was taught to always put a placement stitch, to always put a tack down stitch, and to always put an open zigzag that would stitch after you trim away close to the tack down stitch. That way, if you still have fabric sticking outside that opened zigzag, you know that you need to trim that away, because the satin stitch is going to come and stitch on top of all that, and you don't want little pokies to be out. So just because I have pink for the placement stitch, light blue for the tack down, and a little bit darker blue for the open zigzag, and then whatever color I happen to use for that complements the fabric. So let me change that threads real. Okay, I've changed threads to be something that would complement my fabric. I'm using a Applique. It's got rust colors and beiges and greens and blah 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 blah. So I put in a complementary fabric. Just because the embroidery says pink, you don't need to put in pink. All right, so let me stitch it. This is going to color number 2. Here's color number 1, and we're going to stitch color number 2, which is the placement stitch. Okay, so that was color number 2 that stitched, and on the machine it said pink, but I'm stitching it in the color that I'm going to use to stitch my fabric. So I just need to pull this out. Hopefully you can see this. So that's the placement stitch for those of you that have never done applique or unfamiliar with it, and I just want to cover that. And looks like both ends of this, let's see, that's kind of a greeny brown. You just want to make sure that you can cover that placement stitch. And I think I have enough that it'll cover and I can cut. All right, so we're going to stitch color number 3 now, which is the tack down. And even though it says blue in the machine, don't change your thread color to blue. Excuse me. Okay, so these dirty hoops are stiff coming out. All right, so it would be very hard for me to show you this tack down, the tack down stitch. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's see here. It goes around, comes over here, comes down. Okay, so I'm going to trim that away and I'll be back. All right, so I've trimmed that away. Hopefully you can see the stitches that tack down the fabric. All right, so now I'm putting my hoop back in, and color number 4 is going to be the open zigzag, just to kind of give you a guide to make sure that you've got the fabric stitched, cut down enough so that the satin stitching will cover it. And it's just an open zigzag. And this will give you an opportunity, like I said before, to trim your fabric if you didn't get it close enough. Okay, so I'm going to take this off of here. Alright, so hopefully you can see that zigzag. I know you can see the holes because of the light. Let me put my hand up here. Alright. So now, talking to my machine. Okay, so now it is bringing me up a brown because I programmed it to have a brown satin stitch on top of the stem. So I already have my brown in here, so we're just going to stitch it. And it doesn't do a zigzag or the satin stitch on the bottom. You don't want that extra bulk underneath whenever you put your fabric on top for the pumpkin, because it will be stitching over the bottom of the stem. And, okay, I'm not real crazy about it. I played with it yesterday, and I used a different thread. I thought I remembered which one, so it's neither here nor there. No big deal. Okay, so see, it did not stitch on the bottom part of that stem. So the next color that comes up is pink, and it's in the kind of a shape of a pumpkin. So let me change threads. Okay, so even though the thread color on the machine says pink, just remember that the pink is a placement stitch, and I did write up some instructions for applique. I don't usually do it for just fill designs. I just want you to see how it stitches, but I did write up some instructions. So this is going to stitch out a placement stitch for your pumpkin fabric. See that there's my test stitch yesterday, and I had to move some stuff around and everything, so I'm doing this over again. I didn't like the way it was working, so all right, so the placement stitch is there. That was color number 6, and color number 7 is blue, and it's the same exact stitch out as this, because all we want to do is tack down this fabric. Okay, so I'm not going to put it way up there. I'm just going to put it barely over so I don't have to cut a whole bunch. All right, so put that down and kind of hang on to my fabric to make sure it doesn't slip. And it's just stitching that same exact stitch out that it did for the placement. Once again, that's color number 7. Okay, so color number 8 came up, but before we do color number 8, which is going to be the open zigzag, we have to cut the fabric away. I'll be back. So this is going to be kind of hard for you to see, but when I cut my applique, I kind of hold the fabric up. It helps me. I have a friend that doesn't do it this way. She has to go this way. She comes around to the right. I go around to the left and back. So this helps me get close to the line, but not cut the stitch line. And you can go pretty fast like this. You can see I'm not slow poking it around. And if the tips of my scissors were a little sharper, but I got these last year at the quilt show. And okay, so I turn it around, hold that fabric up, and just trim around. So hold it up, and just keep going. All right, put this over here. So I've got a couple of little pieces that I want to. All right, so let me show you. If you can see how close it is to the line. Okay. All right, so we're going to put it back on the machine, and I'm going to stitch color number 8, which is the zigzag. It'll just tack this. Oh, don't pull that, Regina. Did I just pull that thread out? Yep, I did. Okay, I gotta thread this. Sorry, put my head in front of you. All right, so it's just gonna do an open zigzag, and it'll tell me if I've cut the fabric close enough, or if I need to trim it anywhere. The width of the stitch is just a little bit smaller than the satin stitch that it will stitch later on to give the definition to the pumpkin. That's a new noise. Interesting. All right, I'll do that. Okay, so the zigzag to tell me whether I need to cut it some more is finished. That's what it looks like. So I did a good job cutting. All right, so putting it back on, and color number 9 has come up. No, go away. Color number 9 has come up, which is the vines, the curly vines coming off the pumpkin. The satin stitching to give the pumpkin definition is way towards the end, so I need to change colors. Hang on. So if you're one of those that puts your thread away as you're embroidering, don't put your orange away because you're going to be needing it again, or whatever color you use to tack down your pumpkin. All right, so color number 9 is for the curly vines. And the curly vines are satin stitched. And there's one on each side of the pumpkin, so I'll be back when that's done. Alright, that was one of the vines. I won't make you watch the other one. Okay, the vines have finished stitching. If you can, I'm trying to get this around so you can see it. And now that was color number 10 for the vines. And color number 11 will be the placement stitch for the leaf. Alright, so the vines have been stitched in green, and I'm just going to continue to let it stitch because I'm going to use this for my leaf. So the first stitch is pink on color number 10, and that is a placement stitch. Alright, so I'm going to use this end because I've already got it. Got it pressed, and I'm going to just lay it down on there and make sure it's covered. Yep, got enough to. And color number 11 is blue, and that is a tack down, just to tack the fabric down. Okay, so now I need to trim fabric. All right, that was color number 11. Color number 12 is going to be the open zigzag, just to make sure you've got, kind of give it extra stability and make sure you've cut enough fabric off. All right, so I've cut just the right amount of fabric off. So color number 13 is for the veins in the leaves. Okay, so I've changed to a gold since I don't have any of the design off of this fabric that's kind of glittery. I put a gold in my machine. Color number 13, once again, is for the veins in the leaf. Goes pretty quick. So I just looked up a pumpkin leaf to see what it looked like. I get most of my clip art from Creative Fabrica, but it didn't have a leaf on it, and I wanted it to have a leaf. So I just looked up pumpkin leaf, and okay, I can do that. All right. So that's that was color 13 that's stitched out. Now, color number 14 is a dark green, and it's the satin stitching around the leaf. Oh, I don't want it in green. Cut that off. So I'll be right back. I meant I didn't want the satin stitching in green, and I had gold in there. All right, so color number 14 is the satin stitching around the leaf. And I'll be back. All right, the next color is 15, and it is a decorative fill that's going to stitch on top of the pumpkin fabric. Let me change thread. This fabric has some little gold dots in it, and I didn't want to take away from that, but I needed to do something to kind of enhance it and help divide all those sections. So I'm just adding the decorative fill just because I liked it. Yesterday when I stitched it out, it turned out really cute. Let me get this started and I'll show you. Alright, so sorry about that. I usually turn it off so my arm's not in your way. So it, like I was saying earlier, it does its own thing. I only stitched or digitized one line, and the way the machine and the program stitches it is it stitches over it several times. So I didn't use a dark fabric, a dark thread, because of that. I used a lighter color thread. Let me get the other one I stitched out. Alright, so this is the one I stitched out yesterday, and it's stitched out just like this one is. I don't know why the pumpkin's smaller. I'm going to have to check into that. But see the decorative stitches that go around here? That's what it's stitching right now. I think I have to go in and adjust that pumpkin, make it a little bit bigger. I like it bigger. So yesterday when I was making this video, I just didn't like the order that it was going in and a couple of the things that it was doing on the satin. So I went in and made a few changes, and this is much better the way it's stitching, other than the pumpkin is kind of small. And I did just go in and change that. Enlarged it some. I'll be back. Alright, so that decorative fill on the pumpkin was color number 15. Alright, it's time to change back to the color that you used to do the placement and the open zigzag for your pumpkin. I put my orange back in, and now it's going to do the satin stitching around each of the sections. So it does a couple sections each time, just to provide the definition on the pumpkin. And I'll come back when there's more done. You should be able to see more of the satin stitching. So it's doing this part that's on this side, and it'll do that, and it'll stop here, and then it'll come and do this center section. That was one of the things whenever I was testing yesterday that I didn't like the way I created that. Don't know what I was thinking. I think it was an off day yesterday, because I usually can, by the time I finish and I'm ready to stitch, it's ready to go, pretty much. A few little minor tweaks here and there, but yeah. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so once again, this is color number 16, or color stock, whatever you want to call it, number 16, and it is doing satin stitching, creating the definition on the pumpkin. Okay, that's starting to irritate me. Alright, it's on its last leg now. Well, that sounded kind of strange, but no, it's on its last little bit. And it's just about finished. Alright, there it is, sorry. It's done. Hope y'all like it. And it will be on the group as a free design for a very limited time. If you know someone that might like it, you might give them a shout out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this design, and if you use it, please post it on the group so we can see. This would make a great towel, kitchen towel. All right, talk to you later. Bye. Have a great one.